Hello and good evening, fellow firewood fanatics. My name is Chris. This is my YouTube channel you're watching. Some of you have been here before, some of you may be here for the first time. Tonight's a special evening. This is the first time I've been outside by the fire in over a week. I usually have a fire at least every other night, sometimes 2 nights in a row. We've had rain for 4 days, so I've been unable to be outside. So finally, we have blue skies. It's not raining. It's in the evening here, and I went and got a whole bunch of loads of wood today. You're going to see the videos on those, or you've probably already seen them by now. Went and worked with a guy named Jason. He is a logger, and he had a whole bunch of wood for me that was free that he said, come and get it, because he couldn't run it through the chipper because it was white oak, and it doesn't go through the chipper very well. So real good deal for both of us. I got wood. He got rid of stuff he didn't want, and we're going to work together in the future, hopefully. So you've seen some videos with him. You've seen a whole bunch of them up to now if you've seen the last few videos. If you haven't, go back and watch them. Cool guy, does really good work. So that's what's been going on. So tonight I'm out with a fire, and I thought I would answer some questions that come up all the time or some comments that have been made. There's 4 or 5 things that came up in the last week that I thought deserved answering or talking about for you guys, but nothing really worth making a whole video on. So I thought I'd just cover a few of these topics. Tonight on the fire, we've got a little bit of oak and we've got a little bit of maple. Now, if you see over to my side here, you might, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's some chunks of wood that aren't split. These are cherry burls. And I put one in, like about a week ago for the last fire I had out here, and it burned all night long. The next day it was still about this big and it was still burning. It's mainly because it was probably wet inside. Even those burls are probably 2 years old, because they've never been split and the bark is just now starting to come off. And because burls are so tightly grained, they don't breathe very well. The water, the moisture doesn't come out of it unless you split them. It's beautiful once you split them, and I know there are people that are probably screaming at the camera right now say, why would you burn a burl? Well, number one, because I can. I've probably got a couple dozen of them. Yes, I know they're money. Yes, I know people will buy them. I've sold a few, but it's hard to find a market for certain things. And that's, I guess, one of the first things I want to bring up is that just because I have a particular kind of wood, size of wood, variety or special features with it. See, I get a big chunk of wood in that's like 30, 40 inches, and it's something really cool, like maybe a black walnut, but it's not good enough for furniture. Guys just want to get rid of it. I don't get many of those, but I mean, it can happen. But everybody thinks, oh, you should be making slabs out of that. You should be milling it. You should be making lumber. That's all well and fine if, number one, I needed lumber or had a market for the lumber, or if it was a burl that somebody really wanted, or I had people that were willing to buy the burls and I could take it to them and sell it to them at a profitable price. But I sell firewood, so I generally split the stuff down and sell it as firewood. Now, one of the examples I'm going to bring up of this is something that my brother and I did, this was a year ago now, a little over a year ago. Me and my 2 brothers, my brother Ken and brother Eric, on my dad's property, he had a ash tree that was huge. I mean huge. It was 17 feet around. It was just short of 5 foot across. It was like 58 inches or something across. I think if I remember right, that's how big it was, because we used my big bar. I've got a 3120 Husqvarna now. I've got 2 of them, and we had a 5-foot bar on there, and I think it was just big enough to cut through it. So that's how big it was. Big. I got from that one tree over 6 full cords of wood. And that firewood that we had, the ash, I think it ended up being, if I remember correctly, it was 21, or was it 20 or 21 face cords. And I sell a face cord for $120. So that wood was worth like $2,300, $2,400, something like that. I don't know, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but it was over $2,000 worth of wood for firewood, which is pretty dang good. And everybody says, oh, you should have had that milled. Well, number one, how are we going to get it there? I don't have the equipment to haul something that big, and to have somebody come in with specialized equipment to lift it, to load it, and to haul it wouldn't be worth it for them, wouldn't be worth it for me to pay them to do that. You'd lose money on the deal. You have to have enough quantity of a particular size of wood or kind of wood to make a truckload or 2 or 10 or however many the guys need for hauling to make wood for the lumber. So just because you have it doesn't mean you're going to sell it. I know a lot of people that have milled lumber or had lumber milled for them from trees that they had because they thought, ooh, this is great. I've got lumber. But then what happens is they get the lumber milled, they put it in a shed, they sticker it for it to dry, And it sits there for 10 years and they never use it. I don't have a need right now for lumber, so I'm not going to make lumber. Plus, for me to go buy a mill, to buy a wood miser, to find someone that has one, to get the wood there, it's not worth my time. So everybody thinks just because you've got a raw material, you can get rich on it. It doesn't work that way. Do what you do best, stick to it, and keep doing more of it. That's my rule of thumb. So there you go. So I do have some burls. If you know someone that's in my area that wants some, I've got a few and I will be getting more. I always do. My brother Ken gets a bunch of burls. He gets a lot of them because they don't run them through at the lumber mill where he lives. So he can get burls. A lot of times he can get big ones, monster ones. He used to have a market. The guy that he sold them to died. He lost the market. And he has burls sitting there. They've been sitting there for years now. So they're going to get cut up for firewood because he can actually make some money out of them instead of having them rot. So there you go. There's the story on the burls and big wood. It's only worth it if you've got a market for it and you can do it and make money on it at the same time. The market is the hard part, finding people to buy the stuff that you got. So there you go. Next thing we're going to cover is, I had someone on my channel, I did a video recently and I was talking about things, and he said, because of how I talk and how I think and what I do, I should run for office. Well, I can assure you, there will never be an office that I will hold. I am anti-government pretty much 100%. To me, the only government we need is the Army, police force, firefighters. The rest of them, don't need them. That's just me. I'm that way. I believe that if everyone took care of themselves, worked as hard as they could, helped others as much as they could, raised their families properly, did all the right things in their life, we wouldn't need much government at all. So I try to lead by example. Do the right thing, help other people whenever I can, do as much as I can each day to do the right thing. Not going to hold office, never going to run for office, don't want it if they gave it to me. Honestly, if someone said, I will give you $10 million if I would be governor, just saying something like that, I wouldn't take the job. Wouldn't want it. If someone said $100 million to be president, wouldn't take it. Don't want it. I got better things to do. I know those people are unique and some of them really like it, and for the most part, they're not needed. Just saying. Okay, that's enough of that. The next question, I wrote this down because I had a guy ask me, and I wrote it down from the comments. He wanted to know how much firewood fits in one of the buckets that we use on the tractor. Now that bucket that we have on the tractor is not the tractor's bucket. The tractor bucket is actually smaller. The green one that we use quite often is a bucket that's from the skid steer from the farm. They have a couple of them like that. They're pretty big. They're a little wider, a little deeper, a little higher. And if we just throw the wood in loose, I would say you get a little more than half of a face cord, or a sixth of a cord is what it would end up being if you want to get real technical. So 6 buckets is probably a full cord. I've never done it where I've filled it loosely, taken the wood, stacked it to know, but that would be my guess, somewhere in that range. And that way when we're dumping wood into the bins, I have a general idea how much wood we put in each time. And that's how I know how much wood is in most of my bins, because I know how much we put in. And it's just a guess. It could be short, or it could be not enough. It could be a little more. Some of my long bins, one long one is up closest to the farm field, up to where the corn is growing right now. It's the longest bin we have. And from what I remember, the number of dumps of wood that we put in there with the bucket, there should be about 20 full cords in that bin, give or take. And we have 4 bins like that, so right there would be about 80 full cords in those bins. Then we've got a bin of cherry that probably has 12, more like 10 full cords. I would say about 10 full cords, something like that. So that would be 90. And then there's a bin of oak right by the snowman. If you watch the channel, you've seen the bin that we just filled not too long ago of fairly dry wood by the snowman. And that bin probably has, I would say 25 full cords. That would be my guess. It could be a little more than that because we put some extra stuff in and threw the wood up and kind of peaked it up. So there's that. Then there's the big brand new bin that we just built that has half mixed hardwood and the other half is the dry ready to burn oak. That right now probably has, on the mixed hardwood side, 15 maybe full cords, and then on the oak side there's probably 10, and we got room for another 15 maybe in there, so we got room to put more in. Then there's the real big bin that has the hard maple in, and there's about 4 semi-loads left in there. I sold about 1 semi-load out of there already, so that's probably got, let me think. I think better if I have a drink. Ah, that's good stuff. Whiskey sour. That's probably got, just say, each of the loads we got probably had 12 to 14 full cords. So if we just say 10, we just say 10 full cords of firewood, because you do lose some, and that's the next thing we're going to talk about. There's probably 40 full cords in that one. Let's see, what other bins are there? Oh, there's bins that have, we have some IBC totes that have birch in, and there's a few cords there, and then there's a stacked cord and a half. Then there's the pine bins. So wood that I have right now ready to sell, that's dry, ready to go, it's over 200 full cords for sure. Probably 220, maybe 230, somewhere in there. And then I just got a bunch of wood hauled in. You saw the truckloads that we just got in. There's a bunch of wood there that is dry and ready to burn. It just needs to be cut and split because it's a bunch of small stuff. And then there's a bunch of bigger stuff that will take more time. And then we'll separate that as we go. And then we just got a bunch of tree service type stuff in that I just got from Jason, I mentioned. That needs to be done. But that won't be ready till next year. That'll take a while. Oh, and then there's the wood that I got from my next door neighbor right over. He's right there. I just got that from him, and there was probably 3 full cords, maybe. Not quite 3 full cords. So there's that too. I just keep getting more wood. When people ask me, how much wood do I have, I'm saying not enough. And then how much wood do you want to have number-wise? And I'll say more. More is the right number. You always want more because you're always turning inventory over. So as I sell, I bring more in. Sell some, sell, bring some in. Sell some, bring some in. Make space, fill up the bins, and just kind of keep rotating through the stock. I do try to sell the oldest stuff first, but because certain people want certain kinds of wood, because I have cherry, I have beech, I have hickory, I have hard maple, I have birch, I have mixed hardwood, which is a little bit of everything. Then we have white oak, we have red oak, there's pine. Did I mention pine? Those are the main kinds, and there might be some other stuff too. I don't really separate down more than that. Most of all the other oddball stuff, like say ironwood, that will just get mixed in with the hard maple or with the hickory. There's not that much of it. It usually goes in with the hard maple. It's usually where I put it. It's usually what it comes in with. I need someone sitting over there. One of you guys should be sitting over here keeping me on track tonight. And that's something I plan on doing in the future too, is having people help me. But yeah, I just keep getting more wood and keep selling and keep going that way. So I think that covers the bucket and how much wood that I have. Next thing we're going to talk about, I have this question asked to me of me all the time on the channel. Chris, what is the best wood to burn? Or Chris, what is the best wood to get for heating wood? What's the best campfire wood? What's the best smoking wood? Number one, the answer I would give you would be whatever's available in your area. What I have here, you're probably not going to have where you are. There are people that watch this channel from 55 countries, or 56, something like that now. I mean, New Zealand, Australia, Austria, Germany, Sweden, Switzerland, Finland. There's tons of countries. Canada is number 2. United States is number 1 for viewership. Probably 60% of my views are from the United States, 60 to 65%. Then Canada is number 2, and that's 12 to 15%, somewhere in there. And then after that would be Great Britain, then Australia, then probably New Zealand, and then France, Germany, Ireland. There's quite a few from Finland and Sweden, Norway, those kind of countries. But I have people that watch from South America, countries, people that watch from countries I've never heard of before. Little bitty countries, I guess. I don't know, a bunch of them. So the answer to the question is, whatever kind of wood you have access to, that there's plenty of. And then if there's a better kind, that's the kind you should be burning. For instance, my good friend out in New Mexico, Jeremy Smith, they have two kinds of wood. They have two kinds. They have pinyon pine, ponderosa pine. That's it. Pinyon pine, which is their good wood, that puts out, I want to say it's like 26 or 27 million BTUs. And that's another thing we're going to talk about, BTUs. Got a question about that. And then their ponderosa pine puts out 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. It's like white pine. Not as good a wood, but there's more of it. It's bigger trees, so you can get more volume with it. And that's the only two kinds of wood that they have of any quantity. I mean, they have some scrub oak, but it's real small. It doesn't get big at all. Then they also have, in some of the lower areas around towns, I saw that there was some cottonwood, and there was some ash, but the ash is probably going to die, I would guess. And those I think were planted trees, around towns, around the old city where he lives there. So yeah, whatever you've got available. Around here we have a lot of ash dying right now. A lot of you have ash that's dying. It's very good wood, I love it. But in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be none. We also have a lot of pine available in Wisconsin here. We have 3 kinds of pine. We have white pine, jack pine, red pine. Those are only 3 kinds of pines we have. But there are a lot of evergreens. But those are the kinds of pines that we have: red, white, and jack. Of the 3, the red pine is probably the best wood as far as heat, followed by jack pine, and then white pine's a distant last. Doesn't put out a lot of BTUs. It's very light wood. But we also have evergreen trees like these cedar trees here. These are arborvitaes, but they're cedars basically. Cedar's a very light wood, burns very fast, low BTUs. Then we have black spruce, we have white spruce, blue spruce. We have some fir trees, balsam fir mainly. More to the north, there's a lot of balsam. And then we also have Scotch pine, but that's an import. So that's not really a pine that's a native, but that's like red pine. So there's Scotch pine. Then there is hemlock, and hemlock is an evergreen, but it's pretty good firewood, but it's not as good as some of the other stuff. But there's not a lot of that. Then past that we have larch, which is tamarack, but that's not an evergreen. It loses its needle every year, but it's considered kind of an in-between. It's not a hardwood and it's not a softwood, but it's a good firewood. And it puts out more BTUs than a lot of the pines do. Then there's box elder and soft maple. Box elder is a member of the maple family. That puts out mid-range BTUs, similar to what soft maple does. It's 16, 17 million BTUs, maybe 18 million BTUs. It's okay firewood. It's not great, but it burns. All wood burns, so there's that. And we're going to talk about BTUs in just a little bit here. Then we have hard maple, which is one of the best woods we have available, along with oak and hickory and ironwood. And then oak, we have many kinds of oak. There's red oak and black oak, which are really both members of the red oak family. I know there's others, but those are the 2 main ones. We have pin oak. I guess there's bur oak, which is a member of the white oak. And then there's also white oak. And there's a couple other kinds of white oak that we have too, and I don't know all the differentiation as far as the names and all the Latin names and all that. All I know is there's red oaks and white oaks, and you can tell when you split it open, you can clearly smell it. It's very different. We have birch. We have 3 kinds of birch. We have river birch, yellow birch, and white birch. White birch is the white stuff, obviously, the paper birch. That's lower in BTUs. It's okay. Not great wood. It's middle of the road wood for us. Then we have the yellow birch, which is actually better than white birch as far as BTUs, and river birch, which is has a lot of, it's yellowish in color, and it has a lot of flakiness to the bark. So there's that. Hickory, there's 2 kinds of hickory that we have. We have regular shagbark hickory, which is the common kind that most people know of, and then we have bitternut hickory, which is called smoothbark hickory. It has smaller nuts. Both very good firewood. We have locust, which is awesome firewood. We have 2 kinds of locust here. Now we have black locust, which is the wild kind of wood, I call it. It does have thorns on it, and it grows very fast, but it's awesome firewood, one of the better woods we have. Now we have honey locust, which is more of a yard tree. I have one right back. I don't know if you guys can see it. That's a honey locust back there. Very good firewood, very heavy wood, very, very heavy wood. Excellent firewood. And those are the main ones. Like I've said many times, any of the nut trees are going to be your better firewoods as far as BTUs, and any of the fruit trees. And obviously the fruit trees are going to be your, like, you know, your apple trees, your pear trees, your cherry trees, stuff like that. They're good. Cherry is probably less BTUs than your apple wood, but a lot of people want that for smoking. We also have hackberry. We also have walnut. I think I said aspen. I didn't. There you go. Those are kind of like your main trees. We have butternut, not a lot of it, very, very little bit. And I think I mentioned everything else as far as, you know, the main ones. Now your fast burning wood is going to be your white pine, jack pine, red pine, box elder, cedar, box elder, I mentioned that, soft maple, spruce, balsam. Those will burn fast, but they dry fast, so you got that. Your medium woods, as far as burning, hard maple. No, actually, that's one of the better ones. I'm looking at the wrong one here. I'm looking at far as the drying time. Hard maple dries fairly fast. Elm dries fairly fast. Birch dries pretty fast. Ironwood dries fast. Ash dries fairly fast. The slow burning and slow drying woods are your oaks. Your white oak, your red oak, hickory, beech, locust. And we don't have Osage, orange, or almond wood, or pecan wood. A lot of people mention that, and those are generally people on the west coast. And if you go from the east coast kind of to the Midwest, we have a lot of the same kind of wood. And then as you go farther west, there's different kinds of wood. Also, we have cottonwood. I forgot to mention that. Stinky, nasty crap. So wherever you are, whatever kind of wood is in high quantity is probably what you're going to burn, or what kind of wood is the best wood in your area is what you're going to burn. It doesn't really matter what I say. It's what you've got available. So find out what you got available and then burn the good stuff or get more of it. That's kind of the way it works. Next thing we're going to talk about is the BTUs. And the reason I'm going to bring up the BTUs, I get asked this all the time. People want to know, what is a BTU? A BTU stands for British Thermal Units. It is an established measurement of the amount of heat that wood puts out. I think I said that right. And the way they measure it, number one, is by weight. So for instance, if you take a ton, so 2,000 pounds of white pine, you're going to have a specific size pile. If you take 2,000 pounds of hickory, you're going to have a specific size pile or stack, whatever. Now that white pine, you're going to have twice as much wood to make that ton as the hickory, because the hickory is a more dense, heavy wood. When it's dry, I'm just saying, when your wood is dry, ready to burn. So your BTUs, and the rule of thumb is that the heavier the wood, the more BTUs it puts out. The lighter the wood, like cedar, white pine, I mentioned that, box elder, the lighter woods are going to produce less heat per volume. Hopefully it's not confusing. So if you take a piece of hickory that weighs, we're just going to say, just take a piece of hickory that's like, say, a 6-inch piece, and say it weighs 20 pounds, just for a number. I'm not saying it would, but just say 20 pounds for a piece that's like 6 inches, 16 inches long. And then you take a piece of white pine that weighs the same weight. That piece is probably going to be 10, 15 inches around. It has to be much bigger in order to make up the difference in the weight. And the weight is what matters when it comes to the heat. So the heavier your wood is, the more heat it will put out per pound. And in time, it'll burn slower because it's a more dense wood, so it'll burn slower. So there's that. So BTUs is British Thermal Units. Now the number one, I think, if I remember this correctly, the number one wood for the most heat put out, a lot of people say it is Osage orange, and it's not. Osage orange is like 32 million BTUs. Above that is almond wood. I think almond is like 33, 32 is almost the same. And then I think eucalyptus is like 34. It's just a little higher yet. But the king is, guys are going to tell me again, I didn't look it up, so I don't know. I think it's post oak. Or is it water oak? I better look it up. Gotta get this right. I'm gonna get in trouble. People are gonna take my birthday away or something here. Let's look it up here. And for those of you that are wondering, when people ask me questions, they think I know everything. I don't. A lot of people ask me a question. I have to look it up a lot of times because I don't know the answer. So we're gonna type this in here. Let's see what it says here. Okay, they say Osage orange is number 1. It says 32.9, but it's not number 1. I know there's water. Is it water oak? I think it's water oak. Shagbark hickory, 27.7. Black birch, that's a good one. It's not around here. That's more the East Coast. 26.8. Blue beech, we do have that here. Blue beech. That's a form of hornbeam, and then hornbeam is also ironwood. Same thing. They're both identical. Blue beech and ironwood. Different tree, called the same thing. They're both They're both ironwood, but blue beech is a different kind of hornbeam than ironwood is. But they both put out 26.8 BTUs. Oh, it's per cord. It says right here, per cord. See, there you go. It's per cord. It's not ton. It's per cord. 26.5 is bitternut hickory. We're going to look up more items here. So for those of you that want to know this stuff, you can type a few little words and it'll tell you here. Well, look at here. Let's go down the list here. So we left off at bitternut. Honey locust, 26.5. Applewood, 25.8. Mulberry, 25.7. Beech, 24. Northern red oak, 24. Sugar maple, 24. White oak, 24. White ash, 23.6. Yellow birch, 21.8. Red elm, 21.6. Hackberry, 20.8. Kentucky coffee tree, 20.8. Gray birch, 20.3. Paper birch, which is the white birch, 20.3. So a little better than I thought. Oh, it's the same as white birch. Black walnut, 20. Cherry, 20. Ash, 20. Green ash, that was. Black cherry, 19.5. American elm, 19.5. White elm, 19.5. Sycamore, 19.1. Black ash, 18.7. See, I thought they were the same. They aren't. Red maple, which is soft maple, 18. There you go. Okay. Softwoods, good ones. Tamarack is considered a softwood, 20.8. Rocky Mountain juniper, so juniper is 21.6. Jack pine, 17. Norway pine, 17. Pitch pine, 17. Hemlock, 16. Black spruce, 16. White pine, 14. Balsam fir, 14.3. Eastern white cedar, 12.2, so it's less. Okay, I'm going to look up water oak here right now for you guys. Let's just look it up here. Post oak is 27.9, so it's not post oak. Let's look up there's another website here. Osage orange is listed, but I'm almost positive it's like water oak is the most dense stuff there is. Oh, and this chart here has BTUs per pound, which is interesting, and they have it rated by pound. So that's interesting, and they got lots of it in here. I'm not going to go through all of it. I want to find what that oak is that's supposed to be so dang good. Live oak, that's it, live oak. See, you guys were yelling at the screen. Live oak, that's the winner. 36.6. Live oak is the king. There might be something else from South America or something like that, or Africa, I don't know. There's probably some other kind of wood that, the tree is 6 inches around and it's 2,000 years old. There's probably something like that. Madrone is 30.9, so madrone obviously is very good wood for the West Coast. I hear it's nasty though because it grows towards the sun, crooked and twisty, and it takes like 20 trees to make a cord or something like that. So there's that. Eucalyptus, very high. That's the second highest one, is 34.5. There you go. All right, we're getting so smart here. Okay. Which wood burns the hottest? They got Osage orange again here. Well, obviously it must burn hot. Okay, enough of that. Let's see what else is on my list. It's getting dark out. Mosquitoes are going to come out soon. Okay, it's time to fire up. There we go. Let's put one more in. Oh, let's put a fun one in. I mentioned the burls. Here's a burl right here. I don't know if you guys can see it. That is a burl. There it is. It's in. That'll be there in the morning because that will burn slow, but that's okay. I look outside at night sometimes when I get up to go to the bathroom and see if it's still going at 3 in the morning, and it is. Okay, I got one more topic here. I don't know if you guys can even see me here. It's getting dark out so fast. Okay, so here is what this guy said, and this is from, let's look at the date on this. Where's the date? This is from like a month ago now. I've heard people on YouTube say to let oak dry up to 2 years, but I split oak in March, And I put a moisture meter on it last week and it was 20%. What gives? This is from Jonathan, there it is. Okay, so my answer was a lot of things are possible. Was it from a live green tree or was it from a dead standing tree? If it was from a live tree, it probably wouldn't dry that fast. So it probably was a dead tree. It might even have had the bark off of it. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that this was a tree that was cut or it was down for years in a pile maybe and drying out that whole time, so it had that time to dry. It's also possible that he split this wood down to like 2 inches and he had it spread out in an area where the sun and wind could hit it and it would dry fast. So you can make wood dry fast. The more thin your splits are, the faster they'll dry. Doesn't matter what kind of wood it is. That will be a thing that will happen. Depends on where he lives too. If he lives somewhere out west where they're, like say Arizona, I don't know if they got oak there or not. I thought they just had cactuses, but I'm sure they've got some trees. It's very possible that they have high heat, low humidity, lots of wind, lots of sun, and it did dry that fast too. That's possible. The other thing that's possible, and I put this on there, was that it's possible that he tested a piece that was from the top of the pile. He stuck the moisture meter into it, and that one was hitting the sun all the time, hadn't had anything but sun and wind for months, and so it was dry. But if he went down inside the pile or down at the bottom of the stack, pulled a thicker piece out, split it in half, put the moisture meter into the center of it, then yeah, maybe it would be very moist. So it's a possibility that that's what happened, is that the wood he had was smaller pieces. He tested it from the top. When I test wood, I try to find a thicker one and I try to go down into the stack or the pile I dig in. I dig a few layers away, pull one out, split it in half, and then test it. Because that's what I want to know. What's the inside, not the outside. Kind of like with people. What on the outside is not important. How people look is not important. What matters is what's inside. Same as wood. That's a good one. You guys should write that down. That's a good one. What matters is what's inside. I've always told my kids that. When it comes to friends and people you know or looking for a spouse, the outside doesn't matter. It's what's inside. Same as wood. I think I might get famous with that one. Oh. I went for a 5-mile walk when I got done with wood today. As I'm trying to get in shape for going out west. We're going to go to Wyoming deer hunting. And I'm going to do a lot of walking because I want to do spot and stalk on mule deer. So I want to be able to walk, 10, 15 miles in a day and not die up and down hills and stuff. So I've been trying to do a lot of walking. So I try to get at least 4 miles in, try to do 5 miles a day. Because I don't want to run anymore because it starts to hurt my knees and it's just not good. Because when I start running, I want to run more. So I'm just trying to stick to walking. So yeah, I've been trying to walk at least 3-4 times a week. I want to get to every day, hopefully. So when I go out west, I'm in better shape because round is not a good shape. And I'm getting more round the older I get. Oh, here's one right here. A guy asked me the other day, what kind of chains do I buy? What kind of chains do I like? Which kind of chains do I use? I'm not picky. I know Stihl has the different colors. They have the green ones and the yellow ones, and they say there's a big difference. And some guys have tried the carbide chains. I don't know. I'm sure that some of them are better than others. To me, I just buy cheap ones. I buy a lot of Oregon. I do buy a lot of the cheap ones at conventions. I buy a lot of Oregons because I think they work just fine. I can get them for somewhere between $12 and $14 a piece for a 24-inch chain. I usually buy a case at a time. And again, like you guys have watched my videos, I don't want my chains to last forever. Once I get down to about 2/3 gone, I put a new one on and I'm always happy. And that's a comment that's come up quite often is, when do you change your chain? When I notice the saw's not cutting very good and if my teeth are getting down to where there's not a lot left, 2/3 of the chain of the tooth is gone, it's time to change the chain. As soon as I put a new one on, it's like, I should have did that a while ago because they cut so much better. Some guys will change them as soon as they get past halfway. Loggers generally will cut till it's past halfway and then I'll put a new chain on because they know production is everything, time is everything to them. They want to cut as much wood as fast as possible. So that's why, mosquitoes. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter. People want to know what kind of whiskey I drink. I've never had bad whiskey. But I do like the good stuff. Let's see here. Let's go down some more and see what else we've got here. Oh, this is a question that came up about the battery-operated saws. One guy wanted to know, how come I don't use battery saws all the time because they're better for the environment? The battery saws aren't better for me, that's why. They're slower. They're not as powerful. They're not as big. Other guys have made comments on here about CCs of a saw. One guy made a comment and I thought it was one of the best ones. There's no substitute for CCs. He never met a CC he didn't like. That was what it was. Like, power is good. Fast cutting is better. The battery saws are nice for certain things. I think for a homeowner they're probably good. If you're going to do a little trimming once in a while and you don't have to have gas going bad in your saw, or if you're going to be up in a tree doing arborist work, the battery saws are great. The thing that scares me about battery saws is that about every 2 years, everything's obsolete. They got all new stuff that's better. So you got to keep buying new, and you got to keep buying more batteries, better batteries, bigger batteries. I don't know. I like just putting gas in. Gas works. But there's nothing. I have nothing against the battery ones. They're okay. I don't personally own any other than the ones that were given to me. I haven't bought any yet. I am looking forward to trying out the new steel. They have a 300, I believe. Supposedly I'm going to be getting one of those to try out, and there's a new Husqvarna one. Birch just got one not too long ago. He uses it for his tree jobs and he loves it, so there's that. But it's not a real big saw, but it cuts nice. Oh, I get asked this all the time. How come I don't cut the big rounds, the stuff that won't fit in the processor as far as the bar cutting it? How come I don't cut those in a pile, scoop them up with a bucket, take them over to the processor, and then put them in the processor chamber and then have the processor split them, which it could do, because the size wouldn't matter if it's in the chamber, because the chamber's big, but it's the bar that can only cut through about 22 inches. Well, the reason is that would be a lot of extra work, because I would have to cut it, then get it into the bucket, and you're usually not just going to scoop up those big rounds. You're going to have to shove them in, then you got to drive the tractor over there, and you're going to have to take the chunk of wood, put it into the bin, or into the splitting chamber, close the splitting chamber, which means you're going to have to have somebody else up on the processor running it, or if I did it by myself, I'd have to put that chunk into the splitting chamber, then go around the processor, climb up on it, split that piece, climb back down around, put another piece in. It would be more manual labor to do it that way. It makes no sense to do it that way. I run the wood that'll fit through the processor nicely and use that for processing. And the rest of the time, the small stuff or the knotty, crooked stuff, I cut it by hand. The real big stuff that won't fit in the processor, I still enjoy tremendously cutting with a chainsaw. So I can't use the processor for all the wood because we get a lot of tree service wood. A lot of the tree service wood won't go through the processor, but we put the wood that will go through the processor through the processor. The next question that's right after this one is, how come I haven't used the 16-way wedge yet? Because I've got a 16-way wedge that I got from Easton Made. Haven't used it yet because I've been busy doing other things. It's sitting there waiting for me. And we're going to put it in soon. Probably within the next 2 weeks, we're going to get it in there. And I got the 2 loads of wood that I just got from John Corner. I am going to pick out the bigger stuff from those 2 piles that we've got there now. I'm going to separate all the small stuff because that'll probably be hand cut, and then the big stuff will go into the processor and we'll make wood with that. And I am considering processing some boiler wood and advertising that I've got boiler wood. So what I mean is 20-inch pieces, using the 4-way wedge and splitting them into just quarters or halves, so some bigger stuff. So advertise boiler wood. The problem with that is that I have found, and I don't know if any of you have noticed this, boiler wood people are cheap. They don't want to spend money. The reason they got a boiler and they cut wood and they burn wood to heat their house is they want to save money. So most boiler people I have met, probably 95% of them, they want the cheapest wood possible. They don't want to pay anything for it. That's what I found. Now there are some people that will pay for it because they either really like the wood heat, they can't cut wood themselves, they don't have the time, or they want to buy more wood. The lady that I did the processor job for this year, where I did the boiler wood for her, she doesn't have the capability of cutting wood, so she was willing to buy it, but she wanted bigger stuff, but she wanted a good price. because she realized she was buying a semi-load of wood and she wanted to make sure she got the best price possible. So there's that. So there you go. That's all I got for today, folks. It's getting dark out. I'm getting hungry. I'm going to go have some supper. Tomorrow I will be back 5:30 a.m. Right now you're going to go watch some more videos. There's 1,500 on my channel. Good night, Irene.